Let's talk about the Liquid Crystal library. My goal for this video is to demystify a bit of what's going on behind the scenes. It's not magic and you can make libraries yourself. So the only line in our code that this applies to, really, well, is the include statement. Include statements just kind of copy and paste everything in liquidcrystal.h right there. So that's the header file that's part of the library. The library is composed of two files, the Liquid Crystal header file, .h, and the Liquid Crystal source file, .cpp. So this just pastes the header file there, and the header file can also pull all the methods in the source file. It allows us to make Liquid Crystal objects, which have function capabilities that let them communicate with the Liquid Crystal display really well, in a way where we don't have to do it bit by bit. We don't have to set all the bytes to write a character A. Someone did that once really well, and now we can just use their code to make it much easier. But let's talk a bit more about it. So we're importing this library. Maybe be helpful to know what the library could do. So a good place to find out about that is right here. So to get here, I just Googled Liquid Crystal Arduino. So it wasn't very hard to get to. Oh, hold up. Am I in? I'm in the constructor. All right, so here's the library. So great thing for you to do. This is also linked below. If you want to know what kind of functions you can do or how they work, what those numbers mean, this is a great place to do it because it goes and describes all that. It's got sample code illustrating some of the things you could do with the library and do with your display. Got a list of all the functions that it's capable of. Just looking at it, you might be like, oh, I guess I can make my text blink. That's pretty cool. Talks about the 4-bit and 8-bit mode. Great resource. So this should be your first stop, and this is a level I expect you to be able to handle. You can go here and compare code and functions in your crystal ball thing in the textbook and figure out what they do. But I also want to go a bit deeper, just for those of you who are really want to learn this stuff. So to do that, we're going to take a look at the Liquid Crystal library itself. I've opened the source code, and here we are. So, first thing, in the Liquid Crystal source code is a method called send. And this is fundamental. Well, really, almost all the commands use this function called command. So all the functions like blink or write a character or clear the screen, they all basically come down to commands. So we'll check that out in a sec, and we'll notice they all have this command in them. And command uses this send function. So let's figure out what the send function is doing. By the way, we also got this command function, which uses the sends some value and uses low. And we have this other thing, which called write. By the way, command does an instruction. If you remember our register select, if it was low, it was an instruction mode, and it would interpret the data as commands. So maybe this low refers to what it sets the register select to, and maybe the value is the 1s and 0s we need to send. And maybe it's the same with this write, because I remember when the register select was set to high, it was in character mode. And if you set the data wires to the binary version of this character, it would draw it to the screen wherever the cursor's at. So let's figure out how this send method works. Here's the send method. This thing probably looks a little funny, but that's just how it's just saying the send is a function of Liquid Crystal. So And this uint8 just means it's an unsigned 8-bit integer. Not very exciting. It's basically like an int, but smaller and can't be negative. So we send some value, and I would think of this as like a binary value, ones and zeros, which we're going to interpret as either a command or a character. And we've got the mode, what we want to set the register select to so the LCD interprets it as either instructions or a character to draw. And all it does is it sets our register select pin to the mode, so we were right. If it's low, it's doing an instruction. If it's high, it's doing a character. And then if it's this is the right enabled pin, so it's just setting it to low if it wasn't set correctly before, because if it's set to read, that won't work. And then this bit's a little funny. So this is saying, hey, if we're in 8-bit mode, write the 8 bits to the 8 data lines. We've got all 8. We've got D0 to D7 all connected from the Arduino to the LCD screen, and we're going to write to all of them and then do that enable pin down and up. So that's what the write 8-bit method will do. It's a little bit different if we're in 4-bit mode. If we're not in 8-bit mode, we're in 4-bit mode. In that case, we're going to write the leftmost 4 bits. That's what this is. This is saying leftmost 4 bits. This thing shifts a binary number 4 to the right and gets rid of anything that goes off the right edge. So first 4 digits get written, and then the last 4 digits. And that's how it works. So we're just, everything in this, all our commands, if we go and look at them all, we've got all these methods like right to left. So we've got these funny things which aren't as obvious because they use bitwise operators, and we haven't done a lot of stuff with binary and ones and zeros, but we got to if you're going to make something like this, because it's all about ones and zeros. But they all use this command function that we were just talking about. And so they send, these are all things that were declared in the H file, which I didn't show you. So the header file. So you've got all these binary numbers that represent different codes or different characters, different instructions. So that's what a lot of that stuff was. And then, so we've got all these commands that basically just send a certain binary number to the LCD screen and set the register select to the right one. And that's it. That's most of what's going on here. Binary stuff and setting the data wires right, and then getting the register select pin right, and then making the enable pin do this. And so that's most of what's going on. I mean, it looks worse than it is. I just want to quickly mention the constructors, because to make this object, anytime you make an object, it's got properties, things it is, and things it can do. So the properties, the instance variables for this, the things it can do, or sorry, the properties of it are basically just what pins of the Arduino are connected to what pins of the liquid crystal display, and whether it's in 4-bit mode or 8-bit mode. And so all of these constructors use this init function, which is just declared down here. And the first thing that gets put in is 4-bit mode or 8-bit mode. If you notice, any of the ones where you just declare 4 bits have a 1 there, so it's in 4-bit mode. And anything where you declare the 8 data lines have it as 0. And then it also sets register select and the read write and enable and all these other things depending on which method or which constructor you're using. And it determines which constructor you're using based on how many numbers you put separated by commas. So if you put in, oh, where's a nice short one? Actually, the one we use in this one, we use the shortest one, takes, what is it, 6 things. So we say what pin of the Arduino is connected to register select, what pin is connected to enable, and what pins of the Arduino are connected to the 4 data lines. And then it sets it to 4-bit mode, it sets it to write mode, and then all these other guys are just set based on what numbers you put in. And you put those numbers in based on which pins of the Arduino are connected to which pins of the LCD. All right, that was a lot, but hopefully it demystifies things a little bit. Sorry for talking too long, but I hope you learned something.